Hello, good morning, everyone here in the United States, in the East Coast. I am Nick Caracal, and maayong gabi is Philippines. This will be a very short presentation just to give you an update about President Trump's suspension of. The suspension that actually Trump announced last year has been extended until March 31. So we're gonna talk about how it will impact the pending applications that you have, either if you're still at the National Visa Center or at USCIS or at the embassy. So pag-usapan natin yan. Can you just give me a feedback whether or not you could actually hear me? Kung nagba-bounce back ba yung sound? Hello, Ma'am Maureen, Sir Eric, Irish, Ports, Ma'am Ports. Maraming salamat for tuning in. So again, just like what we are doing in the past, if you have questions, just raise or write it in the comments below para masagot natin. So again, this will be a very short presentation depending kung may mga tanong kayo. So again, kung may mga pending kayong applications either at the USCIS level or NBC or embassy, please raise them and I will try to respond to them. Okay? So I will be switching screens so you'll be able to see some of my slides. And then I will also be sharing some of your comments para masagot natin at ma-share natin sa ibang nanonood. Okay, so again, this is a an explanation live about President Trump's proclamation on suspension of entry of immigrants and non-immigrants who continue to present a risk to the United States labor market. So if I'm gonna share some of the slides here, pag-usapan lang natin na, again, I just want to remind everybody that as much as I would want to respond to your questions, do not take it as a specific advice to you. I'm just actually responding to your question in a general terms. But if you would want to discuss more detailed conversation about your case, please send me a message or at least call our office so we could actually set up a formal consultation. So the President Trump's executive order is extended up to March 31, 2021, and it will be reviewed thereafter every 30 days. Kasi it's basically driven by the pandemic. So even if may mga vaccinations na in some parts of the United States, but still it is still a threat, and people are just taking precautions. And President Trump actually did that because of that primary reason. But there are also rumors that as soon as President Biden will take into office, that he is going to review some of Trump's policies that were issued, and he is trying to do something about it. So if it will be lifted after President Biden take office, then it will be good for majority of the Filipinos who've been waiting for long, especially those who are covered by the suspension. It's an addition unnecessary waiting for 1 year on top of. So let's say I give an example. Spouses of a green card holders. Normally the waiting period is about 2 years, but because of the pandemic and the U.S. Embassy in the Philippines has been closing in and out, or at least kung hindi man sila nag-close, they have limited ability to schedule applicants. Additional 1 year delay on sa mga cases nila, no? So even stepchildren has been affected by this. So again, there are risks of aging out and all that. So we're gonna talk about that after. So again, there are two hopes here. So either President Biden will actually lift this suspension once he takes office, or if it will be lifted sooner than March 31, 2021. Okay? So again, magsulat lang kayo dyan sa mga tanong nyo. I'll try to answer them as we go along. So again, the suspension covers H1, J1, L1. Though may mga nakikita na tayo, mga na-approve sa embassy, before the extension of the visa, the government was sued because of the arbitrariness of the executive order. It was enjoined by a federal court. Kaya kung napapansin nyo, there were interviews happening at the U.S. Embassy in Manila affecting J1 or L1 or H1. So that's part of the injunction by a federal court. But again, the The executive order signed by Trump extending it to March 31 is another executive order. So kung may injunction man na nangyari sometime in November, December timeframe, it doesn't cover the new executive order. Okay, so remind lang natin, the suspension covers only for people who are outside the United States. So, let's say for example, even if yung H1 visa mo or the J1 visa has been suspended in the United States, I mean, it has been suspended based on President Trump's executive order, it does not suspend the J1 program for people who are in the United States. So, yun yung mga apektado lang nung nasa labas. Okay? It does not have people who actually have a valid visa as of June 24. So, pwede pa rin kayo pumasok sa Philippines. So, if you have that. Kung meron ka ring travel permit, it doesn't cover you. So, makakapasok ka pa rin sa United States. So, what you are saying is, the risk of being covered by the suspension only applies to people who are outside the United States as of June 24, who don't have yung walang valid visa na na-issue sa kanila or walang travel permit for them to be able to enter the United States. So the suspension does not cover any green card holder. So kung may green card ka na, that is still valid, you will still be able to enter the United States. So i-cover ko na lang din dito no kasi hindi siya part sa coverage ko, but marami kasing mga nagtatanong at maraming naapektuhan, no? I just want to clarify the impact of staying outside the United States for 6 months or more. Pag green card holder ka ba, nagstay ka sa United States ng 6 months or more, mawawala ba yung green card mo? The status? Hindi. So it only means that you will still be able to use your green card to enter the United States for as long as you don't stay outside the United States for a year or more. So ibig sabihin, if you are still within the 1 year nung the last time umuwi ka, you can still use your green card. Pero pag nasa labas ka ng United States ng 6 months or more, your green card is automatically revoked by operation of law. So the only remedy that you could actually use is the returning resident, and you could use the pandemic as a reason to justify that, no? Kasi the primary requirement ng returning resident is that you should be able to argue that the circumstance not allowing you to come back to the United States are reason beyond your control, and the pandemic is beyond your control, so you'll be able to apply as a returning resident. However, yung 6 months mo na nagstay ka sa United States, so let's say you are already on your 5th year as a green card holder in the United States, generally you should be eligible to apply for citizenship, no? So pagbalik mo, so even if nagbakasyon ka, if your absence from the United States is less than 6 months, once you come back, you will still be eligible to file for citizenship. However, pag nawala ka sa United States ng 6 months or more, then that will make you ineligible to apply for citizenship. So ang mangyayari doon, pagbalik mo, count ka ulit ng 4 years and 1 day from the time you come back to the United States pag you are already outside the United States for 6 months or more. But again, you could still use your green card to come back in, no? May mga nagtatanong, meron bang exception? So exceptions to that rule has to be provided by Congress. As of now, there is no exception. So then the rule applies. If you stay outside the United States for 6 months or more, you will not be eligible for citizenship when you come back. You have to count from 4 years and 1 day to be able to be eligible again. Okay? So balik tayo dito sa suspension does not cover spouse or child of a US citizen. So may additional exception dito because again, when this executive order was issued in June, it affected the K1 visa, but some group actually argued that the K1 visa, though they are not spouse of a US citizen, they are actually coming in as Fiance Visa, and they are actually classified as immigrant visa holders for purposes of processing at the embassy, because pagdating nila dito, within 90 days, they should be able to get married and apply for their adjustment of status for their green card, no? So then sometime in September, October, there was a guideline from the Department of State instructing the U.S. embassies to process the fiancé visas. But for Embassy Manila, I have some updates for the K1 visa, so let's wait for that particular slide. I only have less than 10 slides, so it should be a very short conversation. Number three, any aliens seeking to enter the United States to provide temporary labor or essential to the supply chain. So again, we covered in a different Facebook Live what are the exceptions to the executive order. So if you're coming in to help solve the COVID-19, then you will be part of that. If you're considered an essential worker, you will be part of that. So there are also exceptions on the HL and the J1 visa. Please review my some of my videos on my YouTube channel. No, but we are going to cover that today. Number four, any alien whose entry would be in the national interest. So again, these type of people who are actually in the high level category of visas. I will not talk about here, but this covers the O1 visa, extraordinary ability, the national interest waivers. But sila yun yung grupo ng number 4. No? So let's see if there are related questions here. Let's talk about kay Ma'am Cheryl. Hi Ma'am Cheryl Marco. Hello po, meaning po till March 31, extension ng suspension. Posible ba makapag-hire ng mga school sa US and teachers from the Philippines as J1 visa under exchange program? So, Ma'am, very good question. No? Sa yung sinasabi ko nga, the Trump's executive order was challenged in court last time. No? So, this was issued in June. And a federal court actually supported the argument and enjoined there was an injunction about the suspension of the J1 visa. So from that time on until March 31, you could actually hear and saw some of the J1 visa holders or J2 visa holders being issued visas at the embassy and able to fly to the United States. But this is a new executive order. So again, until somebody will challenge this in court, I haven't seen any J1 being scheduled at the embassy as of the moment after December 31. Okay, but we'll let you know once we've actually seen that, and I hope I answered that question. Kay Carlamel. The letter ni, is it true online interview na po ba via Zoom sa immigrant visa once may interview? I don't think so. We are still seeing some of our clients being called by the US Embassy or pinapadalhan sila ng email or mails. They are still doing the traditional in-person interview, though may mga protocols naman ang embassy. So, unlike before na sobrang crowded ang embassy, just like USCIS interviews now, so talagang bihira, maliliit na lang yung mga taong nagtatrabaho doon. You could only count by your fingers kung sino yung mga nakaschedule ng interview. And that's one of the reasons why sobrang bagal ng mga interviews happening at the embassy dahil nga they are also putting in protocols to protect the spread of the infection of the COVID-19. I haven't heard of the Zoom interview ng visa. So we had a client yesterday who took an oath at the embassy and it still be an in-person interview. Raquel, how about kung may stamp visa H4, makapasok pa ba? So, ma'am, pasok siya dun sa pasok siya dun sa sinasabi natin na if you have been issued a visa as of June last year, June 24 last year, you should be able to come in, enter the United States kasi nga hindi siya covered ng suspension. Hi Doc. Miss Ron. Kinagwa pa. Hello Sir Marlon. I Miss Ron pala. Much as I wanted to say, I need to go. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Doc. Sir Francis Mendoza, good morning. Affected mo ba ang spouse of a green card holder? So, boss, that will be the next slide. Then we're gonna talk about that in a bit. Aldawin, posible po ba magkaroon ng extension sa J1 visa na last year na po? Okay, it's very difficult to answer that question though. But then again, there are already positive developments in the United States kasi may mga vaccines na, though hindi pa rin naman talaga conclusive na, after it's being introduced to the masses, hindi natin alam no if the Department of State would decide by June or by May. We hope they would still give a 1-year extension for the J1 visa holders na on the 5th year na, no? But until now, I haven't heard any development towards that. But let's see kung merong development. If that happens, definitely I will go on Facebook Live. Jody, H1B visa po ako. Visa was issued February 2018. This year, ni-renew nire-renew na ako. My question is, balak ko kasi umuwi sa Pilipinas. Will I be able to get... ma'am, I would not encourage you to go home because, again, yung H1 mo was approved in the United States. You have the approval notice, but the moment that you get out of the country, your approval notice mo will not serve as your stamp, your visa stamp coming back to the United States. So procedurally, you have to schedule an interview at the embassy for your visa stamping. But dahil nga may suspension, you will be covered by the embassy's rule saying, oh no, H1 visa will be issued because it's covered by Trump suspension. So ma'am, I understand the need of you going home, but the risk also of you not being able to come back is also high. So I would recommend to stay here until the suspension is lifted. Julian, hi sir, ano po yung update sa spouse visa? Ang husband ko waiting na lang po for interview since last year. Pwede na po ako mag-apply ng... Yes, ma'am. So, if you are eligible for US citizenship, then I would recommend that you go ahead with your US citizenship because pwedeng ma-upgrade yung visa category mo ng husband mo ng as from spouse of a visa green card holder to an immediate relative. So, in that case, you will not be covered by the suspension anymore because currently ngayon, you are covered by the suspension. Michelle, what is the time frame of waiting from being documentary quality DQ to having scheduled for interview at the embassy? So, ma'am, normally, no? So again, hindi ko na sasabihin, ay tatanungin kung immediate relative ka ba or spouse of a green card holder. But normally, from being DQ, wala pang pandemic ha, within 1 month, nagpapadala na ang NVC ng interview schedule mo at the embassy. So, DQ, 1 month after, you will receive a notification from the NVC advising you of an interview date. And normally, it is 1 month ahead because that gives you time for your medical and then being able to gather some of additional documents. But sa ngayon, it's really unpredictable because what the NVC is doing now is once DQ ka na, ina-advise ka na, DQ na yung status mo, but they still have to coordinate with the embassy. So kung punong-puno na schedule ng embassy, they are still not going to give you an interview date. So it's really unpredictable nowadays. But what we are saying is 1 month, between 1 month to 3 months from the time that the DQ ka, you would probably get an interview date. I would recommend that you would send a letter or request once na DQ ka to the NVC to expedite your case. No? And they normally respond within 1 month whether or not your request is accepted. Pag-usapan natin yung mga nangyayari ng expedited request at the embassy mamaya pagdating natin sa slide na yun. Danilo, just want to ask, how about tourist visa holder? Can he travel to the US? Yes. If you already have a visa issued, you would be able to enter the United States. Subject to quarantine protocols, of course. Eliza Noblesa, Sir Nick, nakapag-consult na ako sa inyo noong Thanksgiving. Yung wedding namin ay February 2021 na. Ma'am, congrats in advance. So, pwede na mag-start yung process after marriage? Yes po. As soon as you have the marriage certificate, we could start the process. I'm Ma'am Vanessa. Currently residing in Germany, my BFF is an expat here. He is a US citizen po, working in at US government and army. Planning to get married po. Ma'am, you could apply for a spouse visa. The good thing is they are entertaining expedited requests for spouses of military, members of the military. So, advance congratulations. If you need help, let us know. Mara, ask ko lang po, if expedite na po ang papers namin, pwede po ba kami na mismo ang mag-set ng interview? Expedited ba at the NBC or expedited at the embassy? So if expedited at the NBC, again, the process is normally the NBC will coordinate with the embassy for available dates. Normally, you will be allowed to set your own interview. Pag kunwari, binigyan ka na ng interview, tapos na-cancel yon for whatever reason, then you could reset an interview. But what's going on with the embassy is mas maganda na tumawag ka na lang. The representative will be able to assist you in setting up an interview because kung mag-o-online ka lang, their calendars are not updated. So it will still show no available dates, but at least kung tatawag ka, they might be able to help out. So I hope I answered that question. No? So again, expedited NVC pa rin yung magsiset if immigrant visa yung category mo. Pero pag non-immigrant ka, halimbawa, expedited, you are a K1 visa holder, I would recommend that you call the hotline from the embassy to set up your interview. Raquel, if my age for dependents only have 5 months left before mag-expire ang stamp visa, di po ba magka-problema? So, again ma'am, if the visa are already been issued as of June, then generally speaking, they should be able to come in. Right? So, I would recommend that you will coordinate with your airline kung may mga additional requirements sila because as far as makapasok sila, the port of entry, they only need to see if the visa is valid. Yun yung pagdating nila sa Amerika na. No? So, I think when you actually say magkakaproblema is actually a requirement when boarding on a plane, kung allowed ba sila sumakay, and so on and so forth. Kasi ang pinag-uusapan kasi dito, ma'am, no, with a suspension, naapektuhan yung ability ng embassy to issue visas. Kung may visa ka ng issue, then it's still valid. You should be able to come in to enter the United States. Si Ma'am Lucia, yung Fiance Visa, kailan po ang resume schedule ng interview? Ma'am, pag-usapan natin yung Fiance Visa in particular in one of my slides in a bit. Zealous is an essential plan program of NYCT for student visa considered a public charge. I'm not so sure with the essential plan, boss. No, again, this is insurance outside of immigration. This is not a public charge conversation, but for as long as you are paying that, and if it's a private insurance provider, it should not be a public charge. Public charge lang siya kung Medicaid yung program na kinunan. Julian, okay. I will apply now for citizenship. Yes, ma'am, good luck. Nasa Manila Embassy na po, sir. Okay po. Pasensya na kasi nga I was just clicking kung ano yung nakikita ko ng mga questions. So I'm just trying to answer the questions then. I have pending interview for citizenship and been waiting for my 2 kids, 17 and 14, petition I-130 since December 20th. Are they included in the suspension? Sa ngayon, ma'am, yes. So I would recommend that you go with your citizenship interview because pwedeng i-upgrade yung category ng mga anak mo to immediate relatives. In that case, they will not be covered by the suspension. Kasi sa ngayon, covered sila. So, okay, thank you for the questions. We will go with the next slides then. No? Again, this is a very short presentation. Ito yung US Embassy Manila updates. So, though I am actually saying the US Embassy Manila, but we are also seeing similar updates and treatment in other US embassies anywhere else. So, we have interviews happening in Thailand, we have interviews happening in Nigeria, and all other places in the world. And because it is a presidential executive order, it generally applies to all embassies anywhere. Okay, but majority of our clients and our Filipinos are in Manila, so I'm actually focusing the conversation in US Embassy in Manila then. Okay. Expedited requests at the NVC. So, I would just like to clarify, the National Visa Center does not decide cases. Ang trabaho ng National Visa Center is basically just to coordinate with the embassy abroad as well as the applicants in making sure that you have your documents are submitted on time and they are acceptable. Once nakita nila na kumpleto na yon, yun yung tinatawag na natin na DQ, no, documentarily qualified. Once you are DQ'd na, then they will start coordinating with the embassy kung, hey, do you have available schedules para ma-forward na namin yung files ng applicant and they could actually set up an interview. Okay? So it is in cases are managed in a first in, first out basis. So, kung matagal ka nag-file or matagal na-approve yung case mo, you'll be last in line. So, kung sino yung mas naunang na-forward sa kanila, if you actually notice, once sa USCIS na-approve ka, a few weeks later, makikita mo sa embassy as a online status, sasabihin, your case has been forwarded to the Department of State. What it means is, from USCIS, pinorward na yung application mo to the National Visa Center. Yun yung ibig sabihin nun. And then from there, doon nakabase because systems generated naman ang case management at the NVC. So first in, first out. Yun yung basihan ng NVC. So hindi nagde-decide ang NVC. So even on the escalated matters, they still have to coordinate with the NVC. This is an example of what I'm talking about. No? So this is actually an email we received from the National Visa Center because we tried to escalate a case. Sabi nila, ang respond nila in this particular case na we sent your request to the US Embassy in Manila, however, they cannot expedite the case. Because again, depending on your argument, discretion pa rin ng embassy yon whether they will take the request or not. No? Procedurally, you could re-request again every 30 days. Kung hindi ka napagbigyan ngayon, then try again 30 days later. Malay mo, nagbago na ang sitwasyon sa embassy. They could accommodate more cases and so on. However, alam namin, or at least alam namin ng office namin, na we've heard stories that, yung kaibigan ko, si kumari ko, kapitbahay namin, yung pamangkin ko, and so on, they were able to get an expedited request approved kahit everyday kami tumatawag, every weekend. You can do that No? But law firms, baka pwede kami mapagalitan o ma-reprimand kami. Kasi as a lawyer, we should know the rules. And the rule says, you cannot expedite a case within 30 days after your last expedited request. Kasi ilalock in yon ng system. No? So, but we will, sa case namin, we continue to escalate the case every 30 days because that's what the rules allow. But in your case, you could actually call NVC, the embassy. No? There's no rules for you. And again, we've heard cases which the embassy allows, even if it's not really within the rules, yung grounds. So you might try your luck. No? Pag-usapan natin yung grounds ng expedited request in a bit. But again, I hope you could see my screen here. Lakihan natin. Ito yung sinasabi ng NVC. To be fair to all applicants, the Department of State schedules immigrant visa interviews in the order that the cases complete processing at the NVC. No? And then, mayroon siyang last sentence dito. Dahil daw sa pandemic or the COVID-19 situation in the Philippines, due to the current community quarantine for COVID-19 in the Philippines, the Embassy Manila has suspended routine visa services. So, when you actually receive an email like that, it doesn't mean na nag-close ang Manila Embassy. They are only just saying that, hey, we have limited resources. We can only cover X number of cases per day, but it means more delayed processing of your visas. Hindi kasalanan ng law firm yon, hindi kasalanan mo, hindi kasalanan ng embassy. They just have to manage what they can given the situation that we are in now. Hi, Ma'am Kenjin. Good morning. Hi, Ma'am Jing. Okay, tuloy tayo dito sa mga questions now kay Ma'am Eunice. Husband just sent you our paper among December. Can you please give us a time frame? Ay, ma'am, okay, tawag ka na lang sa Tuesday, no? Pag-usapan para specific yung timeline mo. Close kasi kami ngayon Sunday, no? So that's why I do the Facebook Live. But I think I've seen your paperwork na. So we'll talk on Tuesday na lang. Please call. Okay, balik tayo dito. Grounds for expediting cases, no? So, people might think na, attorney, na-approve na kami sa NVC, tuloy-tuloy na yan. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are approved at the NVC, na-approve na kayo automatic sa embassy. Kaya, kagaya ng pinakita ko sa previous slide, the NVC could have accepted for your expedited request and they will try to do that because yun yung trabaho nila. But then again, pagdating sa embassy, nagbago ang sitwasyon sa embassy and there's a lot of cases where the embassy already gave schedules for interview, then one day later, they would send you another email saying that your interview has been canceled. Okay? So again, maraming factors affecting that, but again, ito yung mga grounds for expediting a case. So calamities. Calamities kagaya nung Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines, there was an agreement, it has to be requested by the Philippine government, and then it will be reviewed by the Department of State. Pag nag-approve sila, and it happened in the Philippines nung Typhoon Haiyan, pag may mga pending petitions ka on the areas which was affected heavily by the typhoon, pinapa-expedited request, pinapa-expedited processing yon. So, even if your category is as married sons and daughters of a U.S. citizen, which normally takes about 10 years to wait, because of what happened, they actually allowed expedited request at that time, provided that you will be able to prove that the damage is so significant that it affects your ability to live in the next X number of years. But yun yung example ng calamities that could be a ground for expediting cases. Second, serious medical illness. So it could primarily look into the petitioner's point of view kung endangered ba sila. But however, kung kunwari yung beneficiary also is also in a serious medical condition, it could also be used as a ground to expedite the case. Again, calamities, sorry, nabaliktad na, naulit ko, no? Significant financial loss. So halimbawa, meron ka ng job offer that if you could not actually come to the United States on time, you would lose, let's say, $100,000 for a year. Then you could actually use that argument to say, hey, can you expedite my case because I could potentially lose financially if I will not be able to enter the United States on time. We've seen that and we've done that in the past and it worked. Nothing will stop you from asking that again. Okay? So, again, just to give you an idea of what are the grounds that you could actually use to expedite the case. So, again, members of the military could also be used as reason to expedite. Aging out, so yung mga anak nyo, mag-21 na, pwede mo rin i-expedite yung case. It's unallowed by the rules. Okay, dito na tayo. Maraming na hindi ko daw sinasagot mga tanong nila. So, let's see. Jennifer, bakit po ang tagal ng 10-year green card? Ay, ma'am, it's the law, ma'am. No, we don't know. We don't have to discuss the rationale of it. But yun yung epekto ng executive order. The executive order still has the power or yung effectiveness na is still, executive order is a law. So, unless we have an exception, that will be implemented by the people in charge. So, wala tayong magawa dun, ma'am. Sorry to hear that. Richardson, pwede po ba mag-apply ng R1 visa after the 5th year of J1 visa? R1 visa is a non-immigrant visa. So, yeah, sir, R1, I know it's a non-immigrant visa. Ang tanong dito, if whether or not you are subject to the 2-year home residency requirements. So, if you are, then you are still subject. Hahanapan ka pa rin ng waiver. So, even if, kagaya ng ginawa natin or nag-usapan natin sa last Facebook Live, yung people who are subject to the 212E, on a J1, nag-apply sila ng change of status to a tourist visa or a student visa, the USCIS would still come back to say, hey, where's your waiver? If you will not be able to show that you have a waiver, and then madi-deny pa rin yung application mo. Hi, ma'am. Muranda. Ma'am, call ka, ma'am, pag may time. Good morning. Nika call. Sir, still waiting the explanation from the email about the details of interview. Yes, ma'am. So, wait lang tayo kung may mga further details, but we will be coordinating with you next week. So, holiday ngayong Monday. If you would want to follow up on Tuesday, please do so. Okay? But we are preparing for the interview na. No, next week. Juvicel. My J1 visa will expire in mid-July. I have filed for extension and I'm hoping to be able to go to the US Embassy in Manila to get stamped in June. Worst case, I am unable to get a stamp. Will I be able to enter as long as my entry is not? Ma'am, no. Okay, let me see. So your J1 visa will expire in mid-July. You already had filed an extension. Of course, you're referring to the 2-year extension and hoping to be able to go to the US Embassy in Manila to get stamped in June. Okay, so ma'am, ganito kasi yung proseso na. Your current visa is valid until July. Ngayon, pupunta ka sa embassy for stamping in June. Because of the suspension, I doubt if the embassy will give you a new J1 visa based on the extension. Kasi nga, covered siya ng suspension natin. No. And normally, pag binigyan ka niya ng new stamp, i-revoke kasi ma'am yung previous stamp mo. So, I really, with all this, with the suspension being extended, I really would discourage you from going home because you really run the risk of not being able to come back. By the time, kung balik ka naman ng July, so again, no, you may not be able to have a schedule for stamping at the embassy by June because of the suspension unless it's being lifted in March. So maybe you have to revisit your decision after March or as soon as the suspension is lifted. But if it will continue to be extended, ma'am, I really would want you to reconsider your plan of going home in July, no? So again, let's just see if what happens after March 31, no? But then again, if March 31 wala nang suspension, then it's safe to go home. But I would still encourage you to discuss with an immigration lawyer if it's best for you to go home, no? Kasi again, with nowadays medyo mahirap pabago-bago ang policies. Ay, safe po ba umuwi ng J1 sa Pinas and mag-renew ng visa? So, need ba travel permit from the school district? So, again, ito yung mga, pag ang J1 mo expired na by, okay, let me step back na. Safe na po umuwi ang J1 sa Pilipinas at mag-renew ng visa. So again, the J1 visa is suspended because the suspension order was extended until March. So kung uwi ka at expired na yung J1 visa mo, hindi ka makakabalik. And I don't think you would be able to get a schedule from the embassy for the renewal of the visa while the suspension is valid. So ang recommendation ko, ma'am, maghintay ka ng tingnan natin after March kung hindi na siya ma-extend. Kung hindi na ma-extend, then you will be safe to go home. Okay? Hi, Ma'am Emily Rose. Paano pala si Kurt at turning 21? So, ma'am, yung exception naman, yung uh, children of stepchildren of US citizens, no? So may tinatawag tayo, ma'am, na Child Status Protection Act, the CSPA. I don't want to talk about the details of your case, right? But don't worry about your son. He should be okay. But to talk about CSPA in general. So, if you are aging out, so let's say yung birthday mo, interview mo ngayong June, no? Pero nag 21 ka in May. Normally, may calculation kasing involved to actually show what is your calculated age using the Child Status Protection Act. And it's a complicated formula, no? So I would recommend that you talk to an immigration lawyer whether or not you are eligible for the CSPA. Sa case mo, ma'am, eligible naman kayo, so don't worry about that, no? Ang problema lang dito, CSPA does not apply for K2. Yun yung mga anak ng K1 visa holder. So as much as possible before ka mag-21, you really have to push for an interview at the embassy at kasama yon sa mga exceptions ng K1 visa. Pag-usapan natin yan mamaya, no? But ma'am, to answer your question, don't worry about your son. Jennifer, ano po mag-apply ng visa kung may asawa ay nakulong sa US ng 5 years? Ma'am, nakulong pa ba siya ngayon or nakalabas na siya ngayon? Kasi kung nakalabas na siya ngayon, depending on the nature of the and the offense ng asawa mo, kung hindi naman attempted or conviction ng murder or yung homicide, baka naman hindi magiging problema. I would recommend that you talk to an immigration lawyer to really assess your situation and titingnan din kung maka-apekto ba siya sa probability ng case mo. Mickey, tourist visa pwede ba mag-travel sa US? Yes po, pwede na mag-travel. Again, coordinate with your airline kung anong requirements nila. Does the suspension cover H4 dependents? Yes, because H1 is also covered. He has a transit. Can he change it for a tourist visa? So, Ma'am Jans, transit visa basically is being applied outside the United States. So, when he can change it to a tourist visa, hindi siya change to tourist visa. He needs to apply for a tourist visa. Kasi kung may tourist visa siya, he doesn't need a transit visa. So, hindi siya pwede ma-change lang. So, he really need to apply for a tourist visa then. Lialin, is it possible po ba ma-rescind ni President Biden ang suspension ni Trump? Ma'am, this is not a yes or no answer, no? So, executive order is a privilege given to presidents to issue executive order. So, kung kunwari, mag-take oath si Biden by January 24, kung walang challenges on the executive order by Trump, then he could basically issue an executive order rescinding the executive order given by Trump, no, by changing that policy. However, kung nasa court yung executive order, it's not as simple as tanggalin na lang ni President Biden. So then that becomes a complicated conversation. So I hope walang pending challenges in court on the recent executive order ni Trump suspending the entry of immigrants and non-immigrants. So para mas mabilis ang trabaho ni President Biden. Let's see how it works. Ma'am Grace, is it a valid ground to expedite where my husband got a job offer in different state but our kids will be left in their current state? Is it a valid ground for expedite where my husband got a job offer in a different state but our kids will be left in the current state? So, ma'am, I think I need more details though how it would fall into the significant financial loss. I would recommend that you send us a message daw. Hirap siyang i-assess sa ngayon. Nag-apply na po ng H4 extension pero na-expire na po ang I-94 last September 20 at wala pa pong approval until now. Safe po ba to stay? Yeah naman. Kung pending pa naman yung application, boss, and there is no adverse decision yet, it's still safe to stay in the United States. Kung suspended ang J1 visa, bakit makilala po ako nakapasok dito sa ngayon noong December? Ma'am, ito yung sinabi ko nga, no? Noong December, before December 31, may injunction nga. So, walang effect yung suspension ngayon. If the visa is already been issued, they are not also covered by the suspension. So, I will not be surprised kung ang yung kilala mo nakapasok dito if they already had the visa. Ano pong time frame pag-apply ng citizenship? Ma'am, I think I need more details from you to answer that question. Babis, pwede na po ba mag-process ng J2? So, ma'am, the J2 are being affected by, again, with the new suspension being extended, ma'am, cover pa rin yung J1, J2 mo. So, hintay na lang natin after March or kung somebody will challenge it in court, kagaya ng ginawa nila noong October-November timeframe. Jennifer, sorry po, asawa po siya ng friend ko. Sabi po niya, sa drugs daw po. Ma'am, may mga may mga exceptions naman ng criminal waivers, no? It may not be as smooth as cases ng normal spouse visa, but normally, pag may nag-consult sa akin involving criminal history, before I would even take the case, I need to read the final judgment order para lang sigurado kami na hindi magkakaproblema down the road, no? Either at the USCIS level or at the embassy level. So I would recommend them, ma'am, to consult an immigration lawyer. Klaruhin ko lang pala, no, before ko makalimutan. Even with the suspension ni Trump, if you are still at the stage of filing your case at USCIS, walang epekto 'yon. So USCIS are still continuing to accept cases. They are going to process it the best way they can, though affected na rin yung processing time nila because limited na rin yung resources nila. Yung suspension only affects the processes at the National Visa Center and the US Embassy. So kung magpa-file pa lang kayo, go ahead and file your application. It will still be decided based on a first in, first out basis. So go ahead and file your case then. Ma'am Nine, nag-jump ship po noong 2005. Matagal po ba upang magka-green card? Kung po pwedeng mag-request ng kalit? Okay, ma'am, this is an interesting case. You cannot apply for green card if you jump ship. The rule is very clear that if you have a crew visa C1D, you cannot apply for green card in the United States. But there is a different process for you. In 2012, there is there's a law that was passed. It's called the unlawful presence waiver. So hindi ka mag-apply ng green card in the US, but after the spouse visa is being approved, you could file for the unlawful presence waiver. So mas matagal yung proseso because normally the spouse visa will take about 7 months to 9 months to be approved. You cannot apply for a waiver until the spouse visa is approved. So 7 to 9 months spouse visa, then you will apply for the unlawful presence waiver, which will take another 7 months to 9 months. Dagdag mo yun. And then once the waiver is approved, saka ka palang mag-schedule ng interview at the embassy. So pag na-approve naman ang waiver mo in the US, malaki na yung chance mo na makabalik agad. So in our cases, ma'am, we make sure that we coach the applicant coming before appearing at the interview para alam niya paano sagutin ang mga tanong ng consul. But that should be the process. To answer your question, you cannot apply for green card in the United States. You have to apply for a spouse visa, then a lawful presence waiver, then schedule your interview at the embassy. Okay, Attorney Perez ko nasa case embassy. Wala pa ma'am, nasa USIS pa tayo. So we are still waiting for approval. Bash, yung employer mag-sponsor ng H-1B from J-1 visa, do I still need a waiver? The question, ma'am, is if you are subject to a waiver. So, tingnan mo yung visa stamp mo. If it says you are subject to the 212E, then yes, you need a waiver. Pag hindi ka naman subject to the 212E, you may go ahead with your H-1B, but the reviewing officer at USCIS may still inquire whether or not you are subject to the 212E. Okay, Ma'am Palisok, suspended pa rin po ba, attorney, ang NOS waiver sa CFO? Yes, suspended pa rin ang NOS. There is no rumors yet as to when it will be lifted. But ang nire-recommend kasi namin, ma'am, ganito yun, ma'am, there are a lot of applications for no objection statement because it is the fastest, the safest, and the most convenient way of getting a waiver. However, dahil nga na-suspend ang NOS mo, ng NOS program sa EVP Philippines. Can you just imagine the moment na sinabi ng EVP na, hey, open na kami for NOS application bukas? Can you just imagine the number of cases coming their way? Kasi yung reviewing officers naman sa EVP, iilan lang. So, ang recommendation ko, i-prepare mo na yung packet mo such that pag sinabi ng EVP NOS na ready na sila to accept application bukas, ipapadala mo na lang kasi kumpleto ka na, ready for filing na siya. But to answer your question, yes, it is still suspended. But I would recommend you to prepare your application now such that pag sinabi nilang ready to accept applications na sila, overnight mo na lang yung application mo. Hello, Ma'am Grace. We are just wondering kung posible po ba na ma-expire ang F2A visa ko kung ang grounds ay walang kasama ang mga bata sa California and my husband got a job offer in Virginia. So, ma'am, sorry to be sound insensitive here, no? But we've seen a lot of cases. Ang magiging argument ng USCIS, di isama mo yung bata mo sa Virginia. Yun yan. In some cases, US immigration is not that compassionate though, no? So, once you actually put in a ground for expedited requests, pwede pa rin nilang i-argue na, yeah, find ways, no? Na madala mong mga anak mo or whatever. But I don't want to say na it is not a ground. Again, I would recommend, ma'am, that you consult an immigration lawyer to fully discuss the case. The lawyers at time may be able to do cost-benefit analysis, no? Titingnan kung how much cost it will be kung magkahiwalay sila or magkasama sila and so on. And then, at that point in time, mabibigyan ka ng mas better guidance as to what you can do. Tuloy po ba mag-visit while waiting? Yes. Kung meron silang tourist visa, ma'am, they could still visit you kahit pending yung application. Lani, ask ko lang po, okay po ba Sorry if I sound sumisigaw kasi malayo kasi ako sa mic. So, just tell me kung sumisigaw na ako sa inyo. Ask ko lang po, okay po ba magpakasal kahit wala pang ID pero ready na yung status ko? Ma'am, I am not so sure ano yung visa mo, no? So, okay po bang magpakasal kahit wala pang ID pero ready na ang status ko? So, I'm not so sure kung anong visa ina-apply mo. Are you applying for a fiancé visa? Kasi kung if you file a spouse visa, then the presumption is kasal na kayo, right? Can you just send me a follow-up comment para lang mabasa natin kung ano? Don D, lottery din po ba ang application ng H-1B? Sir, depende kung cap exempt or non-cap exempt yung employer mo. So generally, if you are, again, maraming factors to, no? So if you are applying for a private employer, then chances are you are non-cap exempt. So yes, lottery pa rin siya, boss. Prepare ka na kasi malapit na yung lottery by March. Normally last week of March for early April yon. So dapat prepare na yung papers mo for H-1B. Cathy, hello Ma'am Cathy, long time no here, no? Nakapag-file na kami ng spouse visa, LPR petitioner po. may chance po kami ma-approve ng husband ko for tourist visa while... Okay, so, ma'am, the tourist visa application is a different conversation. So if you would want to know how to increase your chance of being approved a tourist visa, you could actually check my YouTube channel. May marami akong visa doon. Um, marami akong videos doon to how to increase your chance of approval for a tourist visa. Now, if the question is, may epekto ba ang pag-apply mo ng tourist visa dahil mayroon kang spouse visa petition? Posible, no? Because again, magkaiba kasi intent, ma'am, nung tourist visa to immigrant visa. In a tourist visa application kasi, you are actually saying that, hey, I have no plans to stay permanently in the United States. However, meron kang pending spouse visa application, which by intent, you are actually planning to stay permanently in the US. So, again, depende yon sa pag-assess ng officer. I will not say that you will be denied. I will not also say categorically say na ma-approve ka because depende pa rin yun eh. Pagdating mo sa interview, pag strong ties yung applicant, ibig sabihin, meron siyang trabaho, maganda naman sweldo niya, and all other factors, and then at the end of the day, the officer says na, yeah, there is still a more likelihood that the applicant will come back to the Philippines, then baka mabigyan sila ng tourist visa. But there is no direct correlation between if I have a spouse visa pending, ma-approve ba, ma-deny ba ang ang tourist visa ko. Ma'am, good luck. I would still recommend go ahead with the tourist visa application. Ma'am, pag-usapan natin yung denial notice, ma'am, no, because that affects everyone. And normal po ba it will take almost a year na yung application namin sa spouse visa? We applied online last March. Okay, so Ma'am Ana, I don't know if you're a US citizen or a green card holder. Normally, if the petitioner is a green card holder, the waiting period or processing time is 2 years from the time you file. If you are a US citizen, the normal processing time is 9 months to a year. That's before COVID, ha. Ngayon nagka-COVID na, ma'am, apektado talaga mga applications. Kasi, again, I've been into a lot of US CIS offices all over the United States, and one thing you could see, walang tao sa US CIS because of, again, the pandemic na alam na natin. Ma'am Ena, how about F3 visa? My sister waiting for interview and medical board. I received an email since February 19. Ma'am, covered kayo ng suspension. So we're gonna talk about that later. Okay. Hello, Sir Ricky. Good morning. Okay, tuloy tayo. Na? 3 slides na lang yata na naiwan dito. So we'll talk about the Fiance Visa. So a Fiance Visa, when the suspension was issued in June, was covered by the suspension. So for a while, hindi sila ini-entertain sa US Embassy. But again, the US Embassy, the Department of State was pressured by some groups that the K1 visa is actually can be argued as an immigrant visa, and 90 days after the arrival, they could be spouses of a US citizen. So then sometime in September, October, there was a guideline, directives from the Department of State to the US embassies abroad to file K1 visas. However, because of the limitations of the embassy resources, nagbigay sila na, okay, we are going to process K1 visa, but we are going to prioritize them. So I will, kung nakikita nyo yung slide ko, kung hindi nyo man nababasa, basahin ko na lang. The embassy is prioritizing the following K1 applicants. So this is for the fiancé visa. Kung ang K1, K2 visa cases where the K2 child will age out before December 31, 2020. So in this case, kung yung mga K2 mo magti-21 na before March 31, 2020, then I would recommend that you request for expedited processing. Once in-approve ng NVC yun at nagiging ready na yung status, call the embassy to schedule an interview because the embassy will not set an interview for K2 applicants. K2 followed to join applicants will age out before, again, March 31, 2021. K2 followed to join applicants will lose eligibility within 18 months. So, as a matter of fact, naging mas lenient ang embassy ngayon because the rules before is that yung mga K2 mo should be able to follow to join. Follow to join means susunod doon sa nanay o sa tatay niya na K1 within 1 year from visa issuance. But again, with these new guidelines now, they are allowing you to follow to join within 18 months from the time na yung parent, K1 parent mo na issuehan ng visa. So again, if you are within the time frame, apply for an expedited request. K1 applicants waiting for visa appointment in order to travel to the US with their US citizen child. So halimbawa, K1 ka ma'am, ngayon, meron kang anak na US citizen, you could also apply posible kasi yun no? Na meron kayong anak ng future husband mo, but nag-file sila ng K1 kasi mas mabilis. So yun, pwede rin i-expedite yung case na yun. In other case, the embassy will also consider the prioritization of the following K1 applicants. Again, pinag-usapan natin dito mga fiancé visa. Petitioner is an active US military member with pending deployment. So kung may letter ka na i-deploy na yung K1 petitioner mo, you could also apply for expedited processing. Petitioner with documented medical issues who is currently in the Philippines. So yung K1 petitioner mo currently in the Philippines, may sakit, pwede mo ring i-expedite yung case na yon. So again, that's basically the rules of the US Embassy in Manila pertaining to K1 fiancé visa applicants. Jess, affected po ba sa suspension home health aid po, AB3 prior date po, current po, DQ na po last August 2020. So again, sir, no, if this can be argued as an essential worker, no, kasi yung health, yung petitioner mo is dealing with COVID-19 patients, it can be argued. I would recommend to send a letter to the embassy explaining why your case is considered an essential work type of job. Going back again. So again, kung may mga question kayo on the K1, please write them on the comment section. Visa, expiring visa extension. So again, ang rules lang ng embassy is to say, pag nag-expire na yung visa mo because of the pandemic, generally they don't allow visa replacement. But because of the pandemic, they do allow visa replacement. So may mga set of requirements silang hinihingi. Once you provide that through to go, in-accept nila yon. But again, because of the limited resources at the embassy, they are trying their best to have your visa reissued or being replaced. Unfortunately, they have to manage it on whatever they can. So, konting pasensya lang, but once you comply with the requirements, your visa will be issued accordingly. Okay? F2A scheduling. So, marami sa inyo hindi nga covered nga doon sa suspension, no? So again, balikan ko lang yung slide kung sino yung hindi covered ng suspension na. Okay. Ito yung hindi covered ng suspension. Pag green card holder ka, anak ka or asawa ka ng US citizen, if you are considered an essential worker or if you are considered to be an alien or will be considered in the national interests. Pag yung category mo nandito, hindi ka covered sa suspension. Pag kunwari, asawa ako ng green card holder, siyempre kasama ka sa suspension. If you are already at the US Embassy level, do not be surprised if you will receive an email from the embassy saying, upon review by the officer, may slide tayo dito, no? So again, ito lang yung example ko na if you are spouse of a green card holder, if you are a stepchild of a US citizen, if you are a child of a green card holder, you are covered by the suspension. And if you receive a letter from the embassy saying na this is to inform you that a consular officer found you ineligible for a visa, and then may kadugtong doon, pursuant to Presidential Decree 10014. Ito yung suspension, executive order na inisyu ni Trump ng June. Do not be worried about that. They have to issue that visa because ito yung epekto ng proclamation order ng suspension. But it doesn't mean that it is an absolute denial of your application. Sinuspend lang niya dahil nga the embassy is prevented from issuing you visa because of the suspension. Kasama na rin dito yung parent of a US citizen. Covered siya ng suspension. And then you will receive a letter, email from the embassy telling you na, denied ka na dahil nga you are ineligible to get a visa. No? So how do we handle that? As soon as the suspension is being lifted or nag-expire na siya after March 31, then you just have to call the embassy to say, hey, we are going to escalate this because of an unreasonable delay, and since yung presidential decree is either been lifted or hindi na siya into effect. So, don't worry about that. That is not a permanent denial of your case. It is just temporarily refused. So, parang kasing category lang siya ng mga nag-a-apply ng embassy, tapos may kulang kang documents, bibigyan ka ng papel na, oh, you are refused on 221G. Ang ibig sabihin lang nun, refuse kita ngayon, but the moment na kumpleto na yung documents mo at sinabit mo sa amin, i-issue namin yung visa. Ganun lang yung epekto nito. No? So, yung mga nagtanong kanina, Sir, spouse ako ng green card holder, stepchild ako ng US citizen, child ako ng green card holder, and if you receive this or you are a widow, makakatanggap ka ng ganito, don't be worried. Once the suspension is lifted, you just have to contact the embassy so that your case will be back in active status again. Kung may mga hinihingi mang documents sa inyong embassy, provide that, send it to go. I would not recommend sending it while the suspension is in effect. I-send mo yon after ng suspension is lifted or when the suspension expired para mas tuloy-tuloy yung processing sa embassy. So, Ma'am Rose, ito yung sinasabi ko kanina na wait for this particular slide. Don't worry about your son. Hindi yun automatic or permanent denial. Dahil lang yun sa proclamation order ni Trump. Okay, I hope I answered that question. My husband is a US citizen po. We check online, nakapost doon, last action taken July 2020. Ma'am, you might want to check the processing times at uscis.gov. Tingnan mo kung sino yung office nag-handle ng case mo. If you are already beyond their established or published processing time, you may want to request for expedited requests. Sir Jody, consider essential naman ako because I work in a hospital laboratory. So, ma'am, again, kung prinasis mo sana yung H1B mo before December 31, you could have been scheduled for H1B. But ngayon, dahil new executive order to, covered ka na suspension, ma'am. But again, I would recommend you to send an email baka makalusot sa embassy. No? Lani, ask ko lang po, pag ready na po ang status pero wala pang ID, I'm trying to get married. Nasagot ko na to kanina, ma'am, no? Again, hindi masyadong clear sa akin. Planning to get married. So, send me an email, ma'am. Send me a message na lang, no? I need to know ano bang visa status mo, ano bang category mo, kailan ba na i-file, because I cannot answer the question. Marami lang tanong na hindi ko, that I need before I can give my opinion. So, again, thank you guys for watching. Ito yung end ng ano ko. I hope I was able to answer some of the question on how it's impacting yung executive order ni Trump being extended until March 31. So, again, just to summarize what we talk about, if you are not covered by the suspension because you are a child of a US citizen or you are a spouse of a US citizen or you already are a green card holder, happen to be outside the United States, the suspension doesn't cover you, you should be able to come to the United States. If you already have a visa issued before June 24, you should be able to enter the United States. Balik ko lang. So again, kung anak ka ng US citizen, you are a spouse of a US citizen, you already are a green card holder, you have a visa stamp issued before June 24, you are not covered by the suspension and you should be able to enter the United States. So kung may additional pa kayong tanong, just write them down below and I will try to answer them as soon as my time ako. But other than that, thank you for everyone who joined in and actually put in your question that I was able to answer at least, I hope. So again, maraming salamat po. Have a nice day, everyone.